Hello everyone, MonkeyBot here, and we're back with the speculation videos. It has been a while since I've done one of these, but with the Tides of Torment news starting to build up a little bit, it's time to get back into this, and we're going to be starting off with Norsca, the newly announced faction for the Tides of Torment, joining T'Challa. I will go back and talk about T'Challa and the Slaanesh faction at some point, but today I really want to focus on Norsca because I'm kind of excited about this one. So the legendary lord we'll be getting will be Sail the Faithless, and we'll start off talking about his potential start location and the unique faction mechanics that will be coming alongside with him. We have only received a little bit of information about this, so a lot of this will still be speculation. Having said that, let's get straight into this video and start talking about my prediction for Sail the Faithless start location. So from his lore, we do know that he was a Kurgan, so that puts him towards the eastern steppes and fighting against Cathay. The problem with that though is that it is a very cramped area already. You've already got village in that area, you've got Zartan, and then even further to the west, you then have Koalek and Tamakon. Now, the entire portion of the Eastern Chaos Waste is only one province tall, leaving no room to put anyone in. There's one province that currently doesn't have a legendary lord though, and unless the map gets expanded in some way in the next patch, which is actually possible, I do think that he's going to end up in the eastern steppes proper, in the actual province there, and in the settlement of Bloodwind Keep. So I think Sail the Faithless starting in Bloodwind Keep is going to be a vastly different Norscan campaign experience to the two we have at the moment, where you have Wulfric and Throg just fighting Kislev and the Empire. Now, you've got several different opponents here that you could be fighting. Yes, you can do the obvious route and fight through Grand Cathay, knocking down the gates of the Great Bastion and making your way through the Cathayan territory. Or you could do something completely different and start going up against Zartan the Black, going up against some Chaos Dwarfs that you don't usually go up against with Norsca, and then you can start marching down the Mountains of Morn, going up against Greenskins, and then eventually meeting up with Croesus over here. So that's three factions you don't tend to fight so much with Norsca, so adding that variety is always good. You've obviously got some allies over here with Zartan. I do think that Sail the Faithless is going to have a very Tzeentchian vibe, so having some relationship bonuses between these two at the start of the campaign, even maybe having a military alliance. We've already seen that in other factions. So for example, Gelt and Zhao Ming over here start off with a military alliance. So having two chaotic factions starting off with an alliance would be a nice, unique start. And it also leads into how I think his campaign mechanic will run. So we know that Sail is a treacherous little Norscan, and he loves to stab people in the back, gain their trust, and then knock them down for the glory of the chaotic gods. We were told in the interview with CA that he is going to have some unique diplomacy mechanics, and I really think that this is going to feed into that. So I have theory crafted a way that we can involve the diplomacy to build up some sort of trust meter to then gain unique resources. This unique resource will then lead into being able to purchase faction-wide buffs, upkeep reduction, campaign movement range, extra melee attack, as well as being able to get very powerful campaign battle abilities and maybe some unique units specifically for that faction. So how is Sail going to get this unique resource? And I think it's going to be something to do with the relation mechanic. Basically, how much does a faction like you? And then based on how much that faction likes you, you will have to then declare war on that faction. You will have to stab them in the back. And the more that faction likes you and trusts you, the more resources you will get. Unlock your powerful buffs. This will then encourage you to get those military alliance, those trade agreements, non-aggression pacts, to increase that relationship with them so they can get them as high as possible to then stab them in the back and then take all of their territory while gaining a significant amount of powerful benefits. So how is Sail going to get this relationship so high while stabbing everyone in the back and plummeting the reliability and everyone just ending up hating you? So I think there's a couple of things that also need to be added to balance this out. First things first, I think he needs to be immune to the reliability mechanic. If you do break that military alliance and you start attacking their territory, you should not plummet all the way down to very low reliability. The reason for this is because it will be very difficult to get those diplomatic agreements with other factions that you want to be stabbing in the back later. He needs to be immune to that, otherwise it will just ruin the flow of his campaign. And one more thing that I think will be very important to this feature is having some sort of mission system where you can artificially increase the relationship between factions. Something similar to the bounty mechanic that we have for the Ogre Kingdoms will be very good for this, but I think there should be a lot more options to choose from rather than just the 3 that rotate every now and again. Having this mechanic will also mean you can then start getting higher relations with factions you wouldn't normally be friendly with, such as maybe Cathay or other Order-Tide factions. You can gain those bounties from those factions, get those relationships high enough to maybe get non-aggression pacts and trade agreements and so on, to then also again stab them in the back and gain all of this unique glory. Now that kind of wraps up Sale, but he will be coming alongside the Norscan rework, which I also want to be talking about in this video. So what we were told in the CA interview is that they are going to be focusing on 2 main features that the Norscans currently have, and that is the Monster Hunter mechanic and then the Allegiance mechanic. The Monster Hunter mechanic I think is the simpler one. You just need to add a lot more monsters, but to be honest, there is so much they could do with this. Not only are we missing the factions from game 3, so we are missing the 4 Chaos Gods, Kislev and Cathay. I think those are very simple. You've got the 4 Greater Demons from the 4 Chaos Gods, you've got the Terracotta Sentinel from Cathay, and then you've got the Elemental Bear from Kislev. But there's actually a lot more missing from this. We haven't got any of the DLC races as monster hunts. So for example, we are missing something from the Wood Elves, we're missing something from Beastmen, Vampire Coast, Tomb Kings, also Chaos Dwarves from Game 3 as well. This will require a lot of work. Creating quest battles is always a lot of resources for them, especially when it comes to the monster hunts. They all need some sort of unique ability to these monsters, which will then be implemented in the battle itself, so they can be a little bit complicated to make. So I understand we might not get the DLC races, but the Game 3 base races is a must. We do need to see those Greater Demons. We do need to see the Elemental Bear and the Terracotta Sentinel as a proper monster hunt. But to be honest, the monster hunt thing is a little bit more of a side quest, so we need to start focusing on their main campaign mechanic. So for me, the allegiance system has always been a bit of a problem ever since that Norsca was able to settle in any region within the Warhammer map. Having to raise every single territory that you come across instead of occupying it and taking it as your own has always destroyed the flow for Norsca. If you want to expand your territory, first you've got to raise the territory, then you've got to occupy it at tier 1, build it up all the way to tier 5 before you can start getting those monsters. It really does slow down the campaign for me. So we need to start talking about how they can gain those allegiances without having to raise all of that territory. So I'm actually going to take a book from Daniel here, the Demon Prince, and we're going to have some passive growth over time. And I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be seeing a lot of campaign mechanics from the Daemons of Chaos because I really do think that those mechanics work so well for Norsca. So the allegiance mechanic, we are going to start getting those allegiances passively. So when you occupy a settlement, you are going to dedicate that settlement to one of the 4 Chaos Gods, and then over time you will gain those allegiance points. But what kind of buffs are we going to get now from gaining that allegiance? And again, we're going to be taking it from Daniel. We're going to start getting those unique units and those unique faction mechanics dedicated to those special gods. I don't think it's going to go as far as demons. I would like to see some devoted marauders, for example. So if we can get some marauders of Khorne, Nurgle, Slaanesh, and Tzeentch, and even some champions would be good. Dedicated champions of those chaos gods would also be nice for the Norscan factions. Leave the demons out of it. Leave those to the Demons of Chaos. However, we do also need to get those campaign mechanics. We need to get switchable plagues, or even the full plague mechanic would be so much better as well. We need to get bloodletting, and we need to get seductions and winter magic control and things like that. We need to start getting those dedicated chaos gods elements within the Norscan faction, because that's what Norsca's all about. The Norsca are working up towards becoming a champion of chaos, and then the warriors of chaos are working their way up to demonhood, and you need to start seeing that progression. You need to start working away, devoting yourself to one of the 4 chaos gods. I think there will also be an undivided option if you want to keep that undivided theme in your Norscan campaign. I do think that will be there also. So what's going to happen when you devote yourself to one of the 4 gods? So you are going to passively gain elements from all of the 4 chaos gods as well as undivided, but at one point you will have to choose one of the 4 chaos gods or remain undivided. Once that happens, very similar to how the campaign is now, you will have to fight off the remaining champions from the other chaos gods to become the true champion of chaos. Once you have done that, I really want it to go back to how it was in Warhammer 2, where once you have completed that part of your campaign, the Chaos Invasion will start. And whether you choose the undivided route or one of the Chaos Gods will depend on what kind of invasion occurs. So if you do go with undivided, you will get the Archaeon invasion, the true end times experience here, where all of the chaos gods will be implemented and fight their way through the chaotic wastelands down into Kislev and the Empire and taking over the rest of the world. If you do go the mono god route, you will get an invasion specified to that chaos god. So if you devote yourself to Khorne, for example, you will only get a Khorne invasion into the old world. And when that invasion starts, you will have 2 options very similar to how it was in Warhammer 1 and Warhammer 2. You will either be able to choose to join side with the Chaos Invasion, becoming their vassal and declaring war on the entire world, or you can choose to fight against the invasion, where if you defeat the chaotic invasion yourself, you then become the end times and the end game crisis. You will gain a 90% decrease on your upkeep reduction and a variety of other buffs, so you can then take on the Warhammer world yourself. And I think that will be a much more interesting campaign for Norsca, going back to its roots as well as gaining the Warhammer 3 treatment. I think it will just make Norsca's campaign so much more enjoyable, and I would love to play a Norscan campaign after that. Joining forces with the Chaos Invasion and marching through the old world, I think it will be a really, really nice and fun experience for a lot of people. Now, there is 2 more things I need to talk about, and that is the 2 current factions that are in the game, and that would be Throg and Wulfric, and we know that they're going to get very small changes. I don't think Throg's going to get a huge amount of stuff. We know that he's going to get new voice lines, which is great. He needs to sound more intelligent than he is. He is a bit of a dumb brute at the moment. I would also like to see a unique building chain, maybe in Winter Prior, his start location, that allows him to recruit all trolls in the game. So you can start getting those bile trolls, you can get those stone trolls, those river trolls. He needs to have access to all the trolls in the game currently. And giving him a unique building, specifically for Winter Prior, I think will gain access to that. I think it'll be very good for him. But moving on to Wulfric, we know that Wulfric is going to get some nice, interesting stuff. I do believe that he's going to get a new start location. They did hint that in the CA interview, not by talking about Wulfric directly, but by saying that Throg is actually going to be starting in his current start location, giving me the idea that Wulfric is going to be moving somewhere else. And there's only one place I can think where he will be going to. It's so obvious. Everyone's been asking for this to be a start location at some point, and that's actually going to be Skagi. So Skagi has always been a fan favorite to have a starting legendary lord for Norsca. Starting in this territory has been something that the community has been asking for a very, very long time, and I think this is now the opportunity to deliver on that. This is going to be a really nice, unique start location for Norsca yet again. You have so many different opponents that you don't normally get to face. The High Elves is a big threat that you're going to have to deal with. I think crossing the ocean and dealing with all of this territory over here, allying up with Marathi, allying up with Hikari over here, and it's really going to start putting a lot of pressure on the High Elves here. They've got so many enemies surrounding them. I think is really going to be nice and interesting as well to play as the High Elves. But yes, going back to Wulfric, he's also got Mazda Monday really close by, which you will have to fight straight away. You do want to take him on before he does get on his Stegodon. After that, it's going to be a real pain to march through there. But going up against Lizardmen as well, very unique enemy to fight for Norsca. You can then push down south, going up against all of the Order-Tide over here, meeting up with Skulltaker, either taking him out or getting an alliance with him, and then pushing all the way down south. So you've got so many options here for a Skagi campaign. Talking about Wulfric, we do know that he's going to get another unique mechanic, and it's going to be with Seafang. So Seafang is his little boat, is currently a battle ability that you can call on, and then it sort of plows its way through a really long line of infantry, doing quite a lot of damage. But now is going to also be a campaign mechanic. I do think this is going to be represented as a shipbuilding, very similar to how the Vampire Coasts have their shipbuilding. You are going to be able to gain some money, gain some battle abilities, gain recruitment from that, and you'll be able to recruit wherever you go, replenish wherever you go. Another thing that we are also going to get with this shipbuilding is that you're also going to be able to teleport between ports. This has been confirmed in the CA interview, but we don't know the extent of that. How often are we going to use this? What are the requirements to teleport? So are we going to be able to teleport between our own regions? So maybe we have a port here and a port here, and I could just teleport between them. Or can I teleport to any port on the entire map? I think that's going to be a little bit overpowered. I can't imagine starting off in Skagi and then suddenly teleporting all the way over to Cathay within the space of a few turns, not even knowing what's over there. So I think the limit for this, there's going to be a cooldown of a certain amount of turns, and you're only going to be able to teleport to ports that you have already discovered in your campaign. I think that's the way to limit it. Otherwise, I do think it will be a little bit overpowered. Either way, having this change for Wulfric, I think is going to be very good. Very good start location for him if this is the case. And changing Seafang to a proper ship mechanic and a teleport system, I think will be a great change for Wulfric. And that sums up my prediction for Norsca. I think it's going to be a really good change. Norsca has been needing this for so long. They have been neglected really since the release. They've got very little content between their release and now, so their rework is going to be such a welcome one. Let me know what you think in the comments about these changes. Let me know what you want to see for the Norscan rework. But if you have been enjoying this content, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye for now, everyone.